to episode 412 of the DFO Rundown, as always brought to you by Bet365. It's never ordinary. Get in the game at Bet365. Use the promo code NATION, N-A-T-I-O-N. World Series begins tonight. You got a big slate of NFL games. Get in CFL if you're in Canada. And, of course, the National Hockey League, where last night, finally, you got a few overs in the game, some actual goals in the game. So that was nice. I'm Jason Gregor alongside Mike Rupp. Rupper, how you doing, my man?
I'm good. You mentioned the overs. What a squirrely night in the National Hockey League last night. Just tons of goals in games. We had a bunch of hat tricks. We had, I think, a couple 5-point nights. I mean, it was just one of those weird nights. 12 games, just a lot of action. So those are always fun nights for sure.
Well, let's start with the 5-point night for young Macklin Celebrini, because for people who don't know, maybe they weren't watching it. So Celebrini, that's his second 5-point game of his career. And that puts him in pretty good company with guys like Gretzky and Howard Chuck and Brian Trottier, who are teenagers who had multiple 5-point games. Like, the guy hasn't even played 80 NHL games yet, and he's had 2 games where he had 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points. And the San Jose Sharks get their first victory of the season. There's no longer any winless teams in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, that's they needed that. They needed that, and we saw the comments coming out of Sharks camp as far as their team with Ryan Warsawski, and they're desperate. They're desperate, and I thought they showed it. They showed it in the game at MSG, and the way they started that game, they were on point. Macklin Celebrini, I just think that the way that the season kind of started slowly, maybe in regards to him personally, I think it was very easy to just be like, oh, this is the sophomore slump. This is the second year he's got to navigate through, and he still might have to. But this was a huge game to kind of springboard him back to being what we saw last year. But he was all over the puck. Things that he does that don't make the score sheet even are incredible. But they're a fun team to watch, and I think just getting that first win is huge for them. Maybe they could start playing a little more free now.
Yeah, it starts to wear on you. So the Sharks finally in the win column, and that puts Calgary into last place in the National Hockey League. We're going to talk some Avs, some Red Wings, a little Mammoth, Montreal, Edmonton, and then today we're going to do it every month. We are going to have like our Canadian and Olympic rosters, and so today is kind of phase 1 of who we think would be on the roster if it was starting next week. And obviously it's open to change based on injuries, based on how players play, because I definitely think there's some openings on both nations' teams. So we're going to get to that, and we'll kind of have it a fun one. The last Friday, or second last Friday of each month is what we're going to do it on. So it should be fun. So that's what's coming up today on the pod. Now let's start with the Colorado Avalanche. We haven't really talked about them very much, Rupper, and they're obviously off to a good start last night. Colorado and Carolina, and that ends up going to a shootout. Carolina's victory. Carolina burst out to the game with a 4-1 lead. Colorado scraps back, makes it a game, gets to overtime. What do you make of their start, especially considering they've done it all without their starting netminder, Blackwood? Wedgwood has played really well. I know he got the yank last night, but I don't even know if I really blame him individually for that game last night. He's been really good. Like, when your backup's playing that well, you got a pretty good chance of winning.
You know, it's really surprised me with this team too. And Scott Wedgwood has had times in his career where he goes on these heaters for different teams, and we'll see how maybe he can sustain that. Like you mentioned, he got pulled from last night's game. It's not a big deal. Like that happens, but he's been lights out. But the team defends really, really well. Their expected goals against, they're one of the top teams in the NHL. I think they're top 3. So this isn't just an Avs team. I mean, I think they're averaging where their numbers at. Their average goals per game is pretty darn high, and last night's going to certainly help that. But they're not just winning because of that. They're winning because they're just a hard team to play against all around. And here's the thing, Greg. I don't know if we've seen the ceiling yet. And the reason why I say that, the power play has not been clicking. Going into last night's game is 11% with that talent there. So there's room for growth there with those guys. And there's no reason that they shouldn't be high 20s, 30%. Slow starts, again, before the game. Valnichuskin, slow start. He's starting to feel it. Last night, got a couple goals. Brock Nelson, slow start. Devon Taves. Like, there's guys that got more. And so this is just a very interesting team to me, man. They are absolutely loaded offensively. And like I said, they're playing some good defense as well.
Yeah, well, you look, they're second in the NHL, even after giving up 4 last night. They're second in the NHL in goals against. That's really where they've been crushing teams. I think they're 8th or 9th in goals for, which is obviously very good. Anytime you're top 10 in both categories, you're going to have the record that they do at 5-0-3. What's interesting is that, and it's very early, and I don't think it's going to last, but today the leading scorer for the Avs is Marty Necas, who's 1 point ahead of Nathan MacKinnon. Now, a lot of the big name guys have signed, right? They've all, Kaprizov, McDavid, Ike, all these guys, they all re-signed. Marty Necas is a pending UFA, as is Adrian Kempe. Kyle Connor's the other guy who signed. You look at Necas' numbers, got 12 points in 8 games, 6 goals, 6 assists, playing 21 minutes. Now, he does play with MacKinnon. So how much is Necas? How much is who he plays with?
It's a great question. You have to take that into account. Now, I don't know if the Necas camp wants to take that into account when they go into kind of negotiations. I mean, the numbers are the numbers. That's what you're going to say as far as the player and the agent. But I think we could probably say the same thing about Mikko Rantanen. And I'm not trying to say Marty Necas is everything that Mikko Rantanen is, but that was kind of the question with Mikko Rantanen. His numbers were so elite in the playoffs, especially that in Colorado there, and the numbers he was able to put up with Nate MacKinnon. I mean, when he went to Carolina and he went to Dallas, he was under a point a game, and he was not really ever that in Colorado. So you could kind of say the same thing. I just find it very interesting, Marty Necas, in the market, to what it is, because you mentioned the most important thing. Remember how we talked about how the summer is going to be nuts and this and that, and we've seen what's happened the last couple of months. It's kind of not many guys on the market that fit that void. It's Marty Necas, there's Adrian Kempe. It's kind of the perfect storm for these guys. I'm really curious, and this is very early. I don't know where his number is. I don't know, looking at that. I mean, you and I may differ on this, but I think when you're looking at the team too, you got Nate MacKinnon through like 2031, who is at 12.6. Now, the knee jerk is, well, Marty Necas shouldn't make over that. But I don't know. The market may say something different in what we're seeing with some of these guys. I mean, he's 2 years younger than Mikko Rantanen. He's 26, going to be 27 in January. That matters. I don't know where that number is. I might be off on that as far as where he'll finish. It depends. If he's 90 points this year, very well could be with Nathan MacKinnon. I think he's up in that region. I don't think the franchise could give him more than 12.6. That's Nathan MacKinnon, and that feels like some bad juju for the room if you do that. But it's interesting. He's been incredible to start this season. But you bring up a great point. How do you evaluate that? How do you evaluate players? I mean, I saw it happen to Jake Gensel for so long. Oh, he's a Sid product. Well, turns out he's not necessarily a Sid product, but he still gets that rap because he's playing with a Kucherov. Like, he's a good hockey player, but it's really tough to judge that. But I think on the open market, what we're seeing from Marty Necas, somebody will pay through the nose to get him.
Well, if you look at it, and, lots of times in negotiation, look at the last few seasons. So if we go from 23 till now, which is 3 seasons and change, Marty Necas sits with, he's 43rd in points with 219. And guys who just signed, now Adrian Kempe has 226 in that time period. Now Kaprizov missed a lot of games, but he's still ahead of him. Jack Eichel, 244. Kyle Connor, 247. Now, and then if you just look at goals, which I do think matter a bit more, right? Like, Kyle Connor is much more of a goal scorer, and he signed for 12 mil. Like, to me, Marty Necas, now you're right, a team might do it, Rupper, and I think that's why he might test free agency, because there's not a lot of players getting there. But Kyle Connor just got 12 million. There is no chance, if I'm in a GM, that I am signing Marty Necas to what Kyle Connor has. He's never come close to being the goal scorer that Kyle Connor is, and he's off to a good start. Yeah. But there's no way. To me, if Marty Necas gets 10 mil, I think he should be doing cartwheels, because that's where I see him as a player.
Yeah, I think the tough part, and those are great. When you look at his numbers, he hasn't done anything up to.
No.
He had his breakout year in Carolina, and you could say, well, Carolina doesn't really have that stud for him to play with. But now you're starting to see him play with other studs, and he's kicking it up to another level. His numbers haven't supported that type of bump, but the idea of a 27-year-old that maybe just popped, getting them, I find it very intriguing how this plays out. You have to take into account, though, you get to stay here in Colorado with Nathan MacKinnon. That's probably the right move, is to take maybe a little bit less than what you get, maybe even a lot less than you get on the open market, because you're going to have a lot of success and you got an opportunity to win there in Colorado.
Yeah, like if you look, his career high in Carolina, he had 71 points in 82 games. And then last year after the trade, he had 28 points in 30, which prorates to 76 points in an 82-game season. Yeah. Now, this year, obviously, he's off to a good start, but I don't get too hung up on points per game early, because lots of guys, it's hard to maintain that the longer you play. Do I think he's going to be, a point and a half player per game all season long? I do not. And that's no offense on Marty Necas, because there's like 4 guys who can be point a game guys in the NHL. That's Draisaitl, McDavid, Kucherov, and MacKinnon, who have really done it on a continual basis. So he is off to a good start. And with the free agent pool being so shallow, if I was his agent, be like, what do we have to lose? If maybe we can always go back to Colorado, but yeah, all it takes is one Rupper. We've seen lots of guys get significantly more than they would on the open market.
But so that's the other part about it too. Yes, the agent should be, you should go to market. You can come back to Colorado, but shouldn't that decision be made before the deadline? Like, Colorado's a team, like, I don't know, you go on your run this year, are you okay with a potential walk? That's we talk about that every year with pending UFAs. But you think about how the big massive move they made last year to not really have all that much remaining by a walk away, that could be a tough one.
Yeah, well, it all depends. Like, you look and say, well, what does LA do? If LA doesn't trade Kempe and we don't trade Necas, and then they're both free agents, hey, like Adrian Kempe, man, like I tell you, if it came down to it, which player of the two would I take? I'll take Adrian Kempe for me personally. So
I take Necas. I take Necas.
Really?
So, yeah. Ooh, that'd be okay. They're both great players. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Necas, I haven't always loved them. I actually thought early on he was a little bit of a dog, like not like the new dog as far as being positive. It was not working all the time and playing all the zones. And I'm not saying he does all the zones now, but there's something different. I feel like this guy just pops. So I think I would take him over Kempe, but both players, kind of the perfect storm for them right now.
Yeah, the big thing that separates me, well, Kempe has scored more historically than him, but you get to the playoffs and it's not really close between with two of them. He's got 35 points in 66 games, does Necas. Well, Kempe is over a point a game player. So for me, I'll take Kempe all day, every day, twice on Sunday, to use an old school quote. So we'll see. Now, and shout out to Scott Wedgwood, though, to hold down the fort when you're starting goaltenders out, as he's done this season. Where would the Avs be without him? Scotty Wedgwood's been great for them.
He's been incredible. How about how aesthetically pleasing was that game last night with the Whalers and Nordique's sweaters? I thought it looked incredible. It looked awesome. And but Scotty Wedgwood, we talked about already. It was a rough night from there, but he's been fantastic. I mean, this hasn't been a guy that's got a good record because he's gotten a ton of runs, but he's kept the puck out of the net. His numbers are fantastic and what he's done there. So we'll see what it looks like long term. I think Colorado's in a situation whenever they get Mackenzie Blackwood back. I mean, who's hot? Like that's the way they're built. I don't think either guy has shown enough runway to be the man and carry the mail and just be given that and hand him the ball and say this is what we're doing all year. Like, no, it's how you're playing. And up to this point, like he's been outstanding.
Yeah, no, he's been really good. The jerseys. See, here's why I'm torn. You're right; they did look unreal. But as a guy who grew up a huge Whaler fan, it's kind of like a kick of the junk, right? When you see it, it's like, yeah, I like those jerseys; they're really awesome. But I wish Hartford still had a team. Like I grew up a huge Whaler fan. But like those two jerseys are two of the greatest jerseys of all time, though, in NHL history. Like that, like obviously the Hartford Whaler logo, I think is the best. But the Nordique and the Fleur de Lis, man, like that is awesome. But I'm guessing Quebec fans are like, and Hartford fans are probably giving him the bird. Like I'm sure it's a little bit hard to see your jersey and know that you don't have a team anymore.
And it's hard. It's always hard for fan bases, but it's especially hard the way that certain teams leave, the way that it's just ownership, not out, gone. You can almost understand in some regards when you've had over in different sports, we've had stadium arena issues and battles with the city and that stuff. You can almost understand it's never a good feeling, but Quebec, for an example, that stings. So yeah, I mean, I was talking to some of the guys, some of my buddies that are French Canadian, and they hate it. They hate that they saw those sweaters. And I understand that. But they are, like you mentioned, probably two of my top 5 sweaters of all time.
Yeah, for sure. Now, speaking of French Canadians, we'll get to them because they were fired up last night. Probably for both wrong reasons. We'll get to that a little bit later on in Montreal. The Detroit Red Wings are off to a pretty good start, but Dylan Larkin, he's already got 13 points, second in the NHL right now in 8 games for the Red Wings. I know they've lost their last 2 games. They got spanked last night by the Islanders, but you look at the start Dylan Larkin's had. It's kind of reminiscent. If it maintains all year long at this pace, Rupper, and you talked about this earlier, that it's kind of like a potential Taylor Hall, New Jersey Devil situation where he really carried that team and ultimately won the Hart Trophy. They got into the playoffs. It's a long way to go for Detroit. They had a really good start, and now they've lost 2 in a row, so that tempers it a bit. But Dylan Larkin's had an amazing start for Detroit.
So one thing I want to say here first, but then we'll talk about Larkin, what he's doing right now. I just, a lot of times when we discuss just voting for awards, and say this one for the Hart Trophy, I know that I would assume you're not supposed to take, say, this year the Olympics into account, but how do you ignore that? You understand what I'm saying? Like, to see what a guy's level is, you obviously got to be in that conversation from your NHL season. But say, for an example, like Dylan Larkin was one of the biggest surprises for Team USA at 4 Nations. I think he's going to have more of a substantial role. Heck, I'd throw a letter on his jersey for this Olympics. And so I think he's going to have a season. He started off great here for Detroit. He's kind of, in my mind, on the same trajectory in some ways as Jack Eichel, as far as getting really better on the other side of the puck, his battling, coming up with puck battles, and his hockey IQ is off the charts. We're seeing his skill just take over games. It feels like to me, if he can get this Red Wings team into the playoffs, it kind of gives me the 2018 Taylor Hall vibes in New Jersey, that he's got to be in that conversation, because I don't think that the Red Wings get in without him being a massive part and big reason why. So to go back to what I was saying, do you say he goes to the Olympics and he's all world there? Like, you can't erase that from your mind. And we're not in court where you have to ignore what was just, I think it's hard. It's difficult. Like, I don't know. That's where my mind goes. I might be way off on that. Like, how do you think that goes into thoughts? It has to, right?
Well, I am a voter, and I can tell you, I wouldn't really look at the Olympics because it's most valuable to your team based on your regular season. But I will say, guys who are on the Olympics are good at, like, if you're not on the Olympic team, you're not a Hart Trophy candidate, I guess, is the way I would say it, right? Like, I don't look at how they play in the Olympics at all, but I don't think I'd see a player. Now, I guess if it's a Russian player, that's different because they can't play in the Olympics. So, but if you're on a team,
so if you're a Hart Trophy finalist, and it's a tight conversation, and one guy's the MVP of the Olympics, how do you not take that into account? I know you're not supposed to, but you can't take that out of your mind who's playing at a higher level. And I know it's totally separate. It's a totally different team, totally different circumstances. I don't know. That's good on you if you could do that. I don't know if I could. That's why I don't have a vote.
Yeah. I look at all of the, like, when I look at all the stats, I only look at the NHL stats for it. So that would be my, it is a good point. Cause obviously I haven't really had to work, I don't know how many years I voted. I can't remember if I was voting in 14 or not. I think I might've been, but I can't 100% remember what was my first year. Either way, it's something like, I take the voting very serious, Rupper. I think I try not to, some people just like to follow everybody and be, oh, It's not about what's popular. And to me, it's all like, if you can defend your position on why you think something, then it's all right, as long as you can defend it, right? And I don't like to make picks just to make a pick so it's controversial. That doesn't do me any good.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I think for players, like, to win an award, people say, the awards don't matter. That's BS. I don't know any human being. If you're up for Employee of the Month at your workplace and, they give it to Dave because, Dave hasn't worked as hard, but, Dave crashed his car that week. Well, that's a BS excuse, right? So I don't ever care this, he's worth it. No, I don't care. If you're the second best every year, you're just the second best every year. It's not about, it's who's the best that year. It has nothing to do with the previous year. And it's not, I don't ever look and say, well, you know what? This guy hasn't won in his career. He's due. I'm like, he didn't win before because he didn't deserve to win. It's not a participation ribbon.
Yeah, so that went on to my rant a little bit about the Olympics there, but back to NHL play. Dylan Larkin's been fantastic numbers wise. He's got like a 59% faceoffs. He's dominating that area. And one thing that I'm really starting to notice with him over the last couple seasons, I'm going to pump the brakes on mentioning the S word award, the Selke for him, but he's really good defensively. And the way he's starting to compete in the D zone, that's why I said a lot like Jack Eichel. It's impressive to me. So there's something to watch with him, and I'm always a softie for. I think one Hart finalist should always be one of those teams that we didn't think were going to be in the playoffs or didn't know, or that kind of surprise a lot how good they are. There's usually a storyline surrounding that team that maybe deserves some recognition.
Yeah, well, hey, if you carry your team like he has early on offensively, he's got 13 points. Next guy's 7, right? Like if you keep at a rate where you're double anybody else or 40 points ahead of a guy, like that's what I thought a few years ago. Kucherov kind of got screwed over in the fact that he was so much.
He should have got that one.
So,
yes,
we'll see. It's always a good debate. Now let's. What about the Utah Mammoth, man, and young Cooley? Huge game last night, the natural hat trick, and the Utah Mammoth. A lot of people were high on them early on to start the year, and they've kind of lived up to it. It's early, it's extremely early, and I understand that. But if you're Utah, you know what? You're 6-2. You're 1 point behind Colorado. Your goal for differentials +8. Like they've won 5 in a row. The Mammoth look pretty good right now.
They do. I like them. I mean, I like them to make the playoffs last year, and that didn't work out. So you're hoping that there's continual, growth in what they're doing, and they're an offensive team. Like they could put goals on the board, and I think the bigger thing is, can they defend better? Can they have a more complete game and win in different ways? I think they're starting to answer that. I think they've been really impressive, and it's huge to have a good start. A good start for a team like that I don't want to say they're fragile, but they're a team that has had some expectations the last few years, even dating back when they were in Arizona, and it just always seemed to blow up in their face, and they're the same team when you get around to February or March. So I love the start. I think it'll do them a ton as far as their confidence and just really realizing who they are in their identity. But what a night for Logan Cooley. Clayton Keller, I still think, is probably one of the most non-spoken about stars in the National Hockey League. I mean, you've got Dylan Guenther can absolutely bring it with his shot. They can score goals, and that's something that's certainly going to be their strength all season long.
Yeah, no, Utah is, shout out to the Mammoth and their fans. They and by the way, their new mascot, it's top notch, man. Tusky, that is a solid mascot. Like I always, to me, mascots are for the kids, and when the kids give you the thumbs up, it's like, all right. And like out of the blue, my son was just all over. He's like, Dad, you see Tusky? That thing is unreal. Like he loves it. So
I like it. I like it because he's a likable mascot, but the mascot's got to have a stern face, a stern expression. I don't want my mascot just to be happy and aloof. No, man, this guy's dialed in too. He's got that, but no, they just the whole branding. I mean, honestly, I think that social media and the game has changed in the National Hockey League, but I date it back to when Vegas came in. The branding and the stuff that Vegas did, for me, changed the NHL landscape. We started seeing whether it's social media accounts, the in-house, production that teams do, the in-house entertainment in-game entertainment has really kicked it up to another level. And all these, especially the new teams, are knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, well, the one mascot who doesn't look stern though, but the kids love him is in Philadelphia, right? Like they might have the best. They got to be the best city with mascots, right? You just look at the Philly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. And great, like it's just. I'm sorry, there's no city that's close, right? Like they dominate in the mascot game in Philly.
Yeah, they're league leaders in that. And he might not have a stern look on his face, but he looks a little unpredictable. So you got to kind of, that makes him a little squirrely. I like that. Now,
the late game last night, so some of our viewers and listeners might not have been up to watch it. Montreal and Edmonton. It was a crazy game. Edmonton had a lead, then they gave up 3 goals in $150, and it looked like they were going to tank again. And then in the third period, they're down by 2 goals, and Masson takes a penalty. Edmonton scores a power play goal, and for the second time in the game, because it happened earlier when Montreal scored, Bouchard slashed a guy right after the goal, clear slash, got a penalty. Doesn't happen very often that you go on a power play right after you score. Montreal, earlier in the game, Slavkovsky was assessed a boarding call. It wasn't a penalty. And I think it was Gallagher said, yeah, we talked to the refs. The refs admitted they missed a call, which is all the refs can do. The refs are going to miss a call. Just like when a defenseman or a forward serves up a pizza, a mistake's going to happen. So they say they made a mistake. The Masson penalty trips McDavid in the slot, penalty probably. But after, on that power play goal, Josh Anderson, and I think Pat's got it. Here's Josh Anderson, Rupper. So they score. Watch Josh Anderson. He skates like 10, 15 feet, tapping his stick, staring right at the ref, and that's when he got the penalty. People online were, I got a penalty for shooting the puck. You can't go 15 feet tapping your stick, because I'm sure he wasn't saying nice things to that's an obvious unsportsmanlike penalty. It's a no-brainer to me.
I couldn't agree more. And I didn't see that angle that we're watching right there, and you could see the referee hit him up with it right in that clip. So here's the thing, even shooting pucks after goals. We see it all the time. I never did it for this reason, because you're emotional in that moment. Shooting a puck happens all the time. You should not get probably a penalty unless it's like overly egregious. If you're taking sometimes we see guys taking slap shots into the end wall. They still don't get called. But what it does is it brings attention. And I think that when you do that, you get eyeballs on you to see how hot you actually are in this moment. And then to go and do that. I mean, I did that probably once when I was peewee hockey. I got a penalty then, got yelled at, screamed at by my parents. Never did it again. I just learned that that's not what you do. You will get a penalty if you're mocking the ref. And maybe if you do it like that once, maybe you get a ref that's got a long wick and is okay with it. But he's probably not, because you already shot the puck. And he's probably not because he apologized, or they apologized for a call earlier in the game, said they got it wrong. And this is just me filling in the blanks. I'm sure they heard it all game long. Like you got to have a feel. And I don't think Josh Anderson had one. So I'm with you. That was the right call. He earned that one, and they had to pay because of it.
Yeah, and so I know that when the ref makes a call, even if you don't like it, kill off the penalty. Just because they make a bad call doesn't mean you have to give up a power play goal. And that allowed him to get back in the game. And then Podkolzin wins it with 1:09 left on actually a really nice goal, backhander in front, his first goal since his father died. He was pretty emotional about it after the game. But I'll say this, man, that Montreal team is quick and fast. Cole Caufiled is ridiculously, he looks like he was always being quick, Rupper. And there's quick, but he was fast last night. There was one stretch, he's wheeling down the wing, and Darnell Nurse, a pretty good skater, and Nurse couldn't catch him. He didn't close any ground on him. Cole Caufiled right now is flying. He's got 7 goals. He's tied for the league lead in goals. He was awesome. Now, after the game, Cole Caufiled with quite the quote after the game. And I think, Patty, if we cue that up, he's probably going to get a call from the NHL
most likely
for that one. But you know what? Hey, if you're going to say something after the game, at least get your money's worth. He's basically say, hey, the refs took over the game, and they won the game.
I'm
still trying to figure that out.
Here it goes.
I think refs kind of took over the game there, and kudos to them for winning it.
Now, some people said, well, kudos for them. Was he talking about the refs or was he talking about the Oilers when he says them? I'm sure Caufield's going to say, no, I meant them as the Oilers, but seemed like it might have been the officials.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of took it as the Oilers. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure he'll get something for that. But yeah, it's just it's frustration. But you know, we talked about it already. I think it was the right call. As far as you might not think it's the right call because of game situation and game time, but I mean, it wasn't an isolated thing. It was a couple things that led to it. And every time you're going to show up the referees, you're on thin ice. And Josh Anderson got dinged there.
I'm curious to see if Cole Cauffield will be on your initial roster for Team USA. We're going to get to that coming up here in a few moments. The Stanley Cup finalists from last year, Florida lost again last night. They're without Barkov. They're without Tkachuk. They had won 3 in a row to start the season. But since then, I think they've only won one of their last 5 games. So one of their last 6 games. So it's not a great, and that's understandable. You lose Barkov and Tkachuk from your roster. That's a pretty big blow, even for a Stanley Cup winner. And the Oilers are 4-3-1. Their offense did finally wake up. It was the first time all year that they scored more than 2 goals 5-on-5 in a game. And that obviously helps when you haven't been able to score. But both of those teams look a little sluggish. Edmonton surprisingly looks sluggish in the offensive zone.
Yeah, I mean, you and I talked about this before too. I think outside of last night's game, I think Edmonton's done a pretty good job after game 1 with A, goaltending, and B, being hard to score against. Yeah. And that's something that you can't just throw to the wayside. I know this is a team that you're thinking they got to score goals. They got to score goals. And we know that Connor just got his first the other night. I feel like that's just going to happen at some point. I mean, look who we're talking about here. This isn't a group of players that are okay. You got arguably the 2 best players in hockey that are right in the middle of all this. They will generate offense. The fact that they've gotten some goaltending after a rough start to the season where you could have seen it go maybe a different way, I think they're going to be okay. Is it a slow start? Absolutely. But it's really tough right now to evaluate teams. I just don't believe until you get to about a 20-game stretch, that's a sample size where you can really figure teams out. And you mentioned the Florida Panthers. Like, all right, the Florida Panthers, they have not looked great. They have not looked great. We understand the guys that they're missing and the issues that maybe they may be having right now. They're still sitting 3rd in the Atlantic. Like that's not all doom and gloom. Like they're fine. They will get better. Edmonton will get better. Those are good hockey teams. And I take that same caution when we're looking at some other teams that are starting off great. Pittsburgh, who beat Florida last night, looks fantastic. Yeah. They look awesome. I don't know where the sustainability is. I hope I'm wrong. I hope these guys continue. I want to see those big guys back in the playoffs in Pittsburgh, but let's see where they're at in 20 games. I think we can get a better feel of a team like that and 2 teams like Edmonton and Florida.
Hey, what about Evgeny Malkin, man? He's a pending UFA. He's got 12 points in 8 games. He's playing unreal hockey for Pittsburgh, playing 16 minutes a night too, I should mention. It's not like Crosby and Malkin are logging huge minutes. Crosby's playing just over 18. Justin Brazeau has come in. Now, how sustainable is it? We'll see. But they've gotten real good goal scoring production from lots of other guys that I don't think people at the start of the year said, Brazeau's going to have 5 goals in 8 games. And right. Connor Duer's going to have 3 goals in 8 games, right? So you need some other guys to step up and help you. And, one other team I want to get to before, just to give them a mention, is the Seattle Kraken, Rupper, who or another team that's off to a good start. And that's all you can ask for as a team, right? Like sustainable, we can debate it all, but all you want is to give yourself a chance to not be out of it early. And, we see some teams, the Ducks we thought would be improved. They're 4-2-1. Seattle's 4-2-2. So they're off to a pretty decent start. But out of Seattle and Anaheim and Utah, even Chicago, 4-2-2. You throw in, I think, the Pittsburgh Penguins at 6-2, and Detroit at 5-3, Montreal at 6-3. And Montreal's 6-3, but they're 0-2 against playoff teams last year and 6-1 against teams who didn't make the playoffs. So, you always have to look at, I think, who they played for any team early on. But out of Montreal, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Utah, Seattle, Anaheim, Chicago. Which team are you most confident in?
I want to say Utah, but I think Utah is in a really tough spot in their division. I think that's where it could be an issue for Utah. I feel like Utah is the best hockey club out of all of those teams. Montreal, I've said it to you, said it on your show. I thought they'd take a significant step back this year. I haven't seen it yet. And all those things I just said about it being early and we don't know, it's still TBD in that department, but they look pretty good. They look pretty comfortable in their own skin. So I'll probably say Montreal might be in the best spot for the way they started this season. But I like Utah better. It's just they're in that Central Division.
Okay, that's fair. Like the Habs, you're right, with Florida and Tampa Bay really struggling early on. And that's like you dig yourself too big of a hole. That's the challenge. Then you're in chase mode all year long, and it can be mentally challenging a little bit. Now we've seen teams do it. Edmonton started 2-7-1. They went to the Cup final. So, if you're a good team, it won't bury you. But if you're an average team, a bad start virtually buries you. So a lot of those teams, they just want to give their fan base a little bit of hope. And October thus far has been pretty good for them. So we're going to bring in Pat. Then we're going to do our Olympic team, our first edition one, USA and Canada rosters. But first, Pat Puff, another edition of Fill in the Blank.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Fill in the blanks. Brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the moment is never ordinary. At Bet365, download the app and get in on the game. Use the code NATION. Bet365 must be 19 or older. So I got an easy one to kick off here for you guys. This is Fill in the Blank. So Blank has been the most fun team to watch so far this season. There's a ton of skill out there. Canadiens, highly entertaining. Utah, we talked about a lot in this episode. Cooley, Gunther. Sharks have struggled, but there's a lot of talent on that team. Greg's, who's the most fun so far for you?
It's a good question. I'm actually going to go with the team that I think has because to me, the most fun is the one that has the most goals. Goals for, goals against. And I'm going with the New York Islanders. I'm shocked to say that because the New York Islanders have kind of been meh. Why do you watch them? But young Schaefer, the Islanders have the fourth most goals scored in the NHL this season. And I think they're ninth in goals against. So it is, there's an average of almost 7.5 goals per game. So actually above 7.5 goals per game. So I'm going to go the most entertaining for me early on, the New York Islanders.
I like where your mindset is there because we want high event hockey as fans, yes. Right? I want to see a 7-6 game. Absolutely. Like that's a great game that I want a ticket for. So that's why I'm going to rule out Colorado because Colorado's been really good defensively. They've kept the puck out of the net. We talked about Wedgwood. So I'm going to say no to them. We just talked about Montreal. They're so fun to watch. I'm going to go a little more off the board. I'm going to say New Jersey Devils. I think what they're doing right now, they move the puck in a clip that's just different. It doesn't mean no one else is doing it in the league. I just don't think we thought New Jersey was going to play the way they're playing this. Arseny Griciuk, he's a player, man. And if he can play in that top six with a Timo Meier and Nico Hischier, and you got the top line cooking with Jack Hughes. That's a team that I think is very fun to watch right now, the way they move the puck around.
Yeah,
that's
I think
fair.
so.
Yeah, Montreal was right on the tip of my tongue, man. After watching them last night, like God, they looked really like they're quick and they're exciting. They make big plays and they're exciting on both ends of the ice because they giveth and they taketh.
That is true.
No, last night was a great game, 100%. And yeah, Montreal just been electric all season. You kind of predicted my second question. It was actually supposed to be my third question, but we'll jump to it now. Which team putting up the most goals is most surprising to you? So you mentioned the Islanders are fourth, the Devils are second, the Penguins are seventh, or is it more surprising that a team like the Oilers aren't in the top 10? We'll start with you, Mike.
I would probably say I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I know Pittsburgh has not been a good team for a couple years, but they've generated a lot of offensive looks. They just haven't scored. So I'm not overly. I'm surprised at the clip they're going right now. Again, I don't know how sustainable it is, so I'm not going to say them. I'm going to probably go with what you said. You gave me another option there to get out easy. I'm going to say a team that I'm surprised is not scoring more is Edmonton. So I think that's probably the bigger one for me. Is that's a team I would expect to be right at the top or top, probably top 5, to be honest with you, maybe top 10 in offense, just because of the guys they have there, but in the power play, but that hasn't been the case.
For me, it's easy. The biggest surprise, the Tampa Bay Lightning. They were the highest scoring team in the NHL last year at 3.57 goals per game. They're down a full goal per game at 2.56. They're 27th in the NHL in offense right now. What the hell is going on in Tampa Bay? I get that it's early, but you go from number 1 to number 27. You still got Kucherov. You still got Point, right? You still got, you got all these guys, and they look like Tampa Bay has not looked good at all in the game. Now, I haven't watched every one of their games, but I've watched 3 of their games, and I'm just like, what is going on here? They look like a team who has a playoff hangover, and they didn't go very deep. So Tampa Bay for me.
Do you have the goals against difference from this year to last year? Because yes, you're bang on with the offense, but they're having a hard time, I think, keeping the puck out of their net too. Like for a team last year who was top 5, they were top 5 in pretty much every defensive category last year.
Yeah, no, last year they gave up 2.63. They were 4th in the NHL in best goals against, and this year in goals against, they are where do they rank? They're like 10th worst. So yeah, it's they've dropped, but not as much, going from 1st to 27th, and in this case, they've dropped from 4th down to 24th. So still a significant drop in both, like it's at both ends of the ice. That's why you're like, what the hell is going on with Tampa? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that'll come around. Like Vasilevsky's going to come around eventually, and they'll start putting the puck in the net at some point. But speaking of putting the puck in the net, let's talk about a rookie we haven't talked a ton about so far, but maybe one of the more surprising results. Emmett Finney in Detroit, 2023 round 7, 201st overall by Detroit this year so far. 3 goals, 4 assists in 8 games, almost a point per game. He is plus 2,500 on Bet365 to win the Calder. Schaefer obviously leads that at plus 115. But my fill-in-the-blank question, Finney has a blank % chance of winning this Calder. Could he get to 60 points? Is that possible?
I look at Emmett Finney, man. This is such an unreal story. So it's because some late round picks, they pop 7-8 years after their draft. He was drafted in 2023. He was drafted in Connor Bedard, Adam Fantilli, Leo Carlson, Matvei Michkov draft, right? He has got right now, and he's only played 8 NHL games. He's currently 7th in scoring amongst his draft class. You got Bedard, Fantilli, Carlson, they went 1, 2, 3. Michkov went 7th. Zach Benson went 13th, and Will Smith went 14th. So all first-round picks who got time to play. And Emmett freaking Finney, who was drafted, then he went back and played in junior, right? He got 10 games at the end of last season with Grand Rapids, had 5 points in 10 games, gotten in the 3 playoff games, did nothing. He is, without question, the biggest surprise in the NHL. It's not even close. Like, there's no one you can put in the category that is as surprising, because he's not even old. Like, this isn't like a 27-year-old rookie. He's 20 years of age, man. And he's come in, and really his first year pro, and he's got 7 points in 8 games. He looks quick. He looks fast. He's right around the puck. Like, I love it. It just shows you it's hard to draft 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, and that could be that could be a difference maker for Detroit long term, because you're expected to hit on your first and your second and your third, and you're like, man, if we can get one guy in the 4th to the 7th round who's a checker or just a guy who plays 500 NHL games, you're doing cartwheels. And I know it's super early, but everything about him looks like he's an NHL player. It's a great story, man. I love it.
That's what old Detroit used to do all the time, right? They used to be able to cash those late round picks. This one's impressive in percentage, man. I don't know, because I'm sitting here thinking to myself, there's still a lot of season left to be had. But Matthew Schaefer, what he's doing right now, I'm a little cautious. I think he's incredible. I think he'll be incredible all season long. I just don't know where the point totals will be. They've been fantastic up to this point. He has never really been a huge point driver, so that can certainly change now. But I still think he'd be 25 minutes a night and maybe not being a point a game would still be a really, really good season for him. And then I think of like a Jimmy Snuggerud is another one I thought they would have an opportunity, but it kind of feels like that team, he's going to be one of those guys that's playing first line, dropping the third, first line to third, like until he kind of figures out the NHL game a little bit more. So I don't know where the ice time is going to be. But this one that you're mentioning here in Finney, he's on that top line with Larkin and DeBrincat, and they look really good together. So all that cool stuff we said about Dylan Larkin earlier, you got to give credit to his line mates as well for his effectiveness. And he's got reps on this first power play unit, which over the last couple seasons, it's been pretty good. One of the better power plays, Alex Tanguay running that in Detroit there. So percentage-wise, early on, I think he's like a 40% chance of winning the Calder. I like his odds, just the way he's slotted in that lineup.
Yeah, lots of good talent chasing him for that one for sure. So it's still really early, still up in the air for anyone. But I just figured at plus 2,500, a small unit on that could be fun to watch this season. That is Fill in the Blanks, brought to you by Bet365.
Awesome. Now we're going to get to it. We're going to do this as mentioned every month, once a month leading up to the Olympics, and Canada and USA rosters. I know that's where the majority, we can't do every team. We probably, as we get closer, we'll look at some other ones, but we're going to focus a lot on Canada and US teams. Rupper being an American, I'm Canadian. So we'll pick our rosters, and then the other guys can debate or question what the hell we're thinking. So Rupper, we're going to start with you. And here's Mike Rupp's Team USA. Guys in the yellow are new on the forward group.
Yeah, I kind of struggled with this, to be honest with you. And maybe this is the whole point of this is an ongoing thing that we're going to be visiting and revisiting all season long. But let me just preface it with kind of how you and I started talking about this. I was doing a game in Vancouver versus St. Louis, and we interviewed Doug Armstrong, who's obviously the general manager of Team Canada. And we asked him, how does it go with this roster? Give us the day-to-day right now, juggling these two jobs and still having eyes on players for Team Canada. And what's the roster look like? In my mind, I'm thinking Team Canada 1, you should be able to, in theory, just run back a lot of the same guys, a pretty good portion of the same guys. I know there's always going to be some changes. And he said, I don't know, we're maybe looking at like 75% of the roster. I'm thinking, whoa, so, I mean, that's like 5 new players that would come in and 5 that would potentially leave. So I was thinking to myself, is that the name of the game here? Is this what we're going to see on other rosters? If the best team's doing that, we're going to see some turnovers with other teams. And so here's my roster here. Some of these lines are sort of intact from what they did with Four Nations in some regard. But just the highlighted guys, I think Clayton Keller, I mentioned it earlier. I don't know how you keep him off the roster and what he's doing. He's been awesome for Utah, and he's probably one of the most non-talked about players in the National Hockey League. Cole Caufiled, you mentioned how quick he is, how fast he is. He can dart in and out, and he's got that elite shot. He could change a game real quick. I think a big thing for me is, I don't know what the line shake out to be. It certainly might not be this, but I think I need to see a different Austin Matthews. I'd love to put some new blood on an Austin Matthews line and see if they can get something going. Then Tage Thompson, I have him because I think you need a little more size, especially with those other 2 guys I added. That's who I got up front. All these other players.
Just for our listeners who aren't watching, he's got Eichel with the Tkachuk brothers, Matthews, Cauffield, Keller. Those are 2 new wingers. Jack Hughes with Tage Thompson, Jake Gensel, Dylan Larkin, Matt Boldy, JT Miller, Brock Nelson, and Kyle Connor, the extras. So which 4? So that's Chris Kreider's gone. Who else?
Vinny Trocheck.
Yeah.
I didn't even write down who was out. So those 2 would.
That'd be it because there was only 13 forwards, right, at Four Nations. So you have an extra 4 on that. Yeah. All
right. So yes. And obviously these lines are all over the place. Just as far as roster, this is what I think right now the 4 lines and 2 extras would look like.
Okay, and then we'll get to your defense.
I kept the same defense and same goaltenders. And let me just say this, though, and this is kind of the fun part about playing this game, is I had some players even up front where I'm like, I don't know. I think there's going to be a player they're going to want to infuse in here, but I don't think we've seen enough yet, even of this season, to see where that player's game is at. So I think there could certainly be changes on our lists moving forward, doing this each month. On the back end, this one, I thought this was a real strength, a real surprising strength for Team USA, and I think they loved how their decor played in this tournament. It was, remember, Jake Sanderson wasn't even really necessarily supposed to be a part of it, and he was a big factor. I thought Brock Faber had kind of his coming out party. I mean, they loved a lot of the defending that was happening here. The one that kind of gets me, we don't know what Noah Hanifin, he's hurt right now. We don't know what that's going to look like, but we don't know a lot of these guys where their health's going to be come Olympic time. Adam Fox was one for me that I just think, I think he's got to have a solid time with the Rangers from here till then. Like I starting on looking, I think what Seth Jones looked like. I think one thing that's keeping him on this for me is A, Mike Sullivan's his coach in New York, and B, he's a right-hand shot. And there's not a ton of them on Team USA's back end. Another one that would jump up for me would be possibly a Seth Jones, but I'm not ready to make that move yet. And the goaltenders, I think, all stay the same.
So you have on the blue line Hughes, McAvoy, Slavin, Faber, Werenski, Sanderson, Hanifin, Fox, and then Hellebuck, Ottinger, and Swayman. So to me, I look at the back end for Team USA, and I wonder, does Luke Hughes get in the conversation this season? Do they want a Jake Sanderson? Like I wonder if they're looking and say, do we want some of those young guys who we think are going to be for sure there again? Whatever we call the 4 nations, it's probably not going to be 4 nations, probably 7 nations, 8 nations, whatever it is in a few years, and then the Olympics. And you're right on. Like Noah Hanifin, I think that's a guy when it's all said and done, he's banged up this year. I think he'll be a guy who comes off just because it's not playing.
Yeah.
But Adam Fox, you're right. The coaching staff didn't play him a lot. And how he plays this year in New York, I think could have a big impact because you've got some, like Jake Sanderson, just a better skater, right? He just is. Yeah. And so is Luke Hughes, and they're younger guys. So those are the 2 D-men that I'm most intrigued to see kind of where they go. Like Zeke Williams, I know there's Lane Hudson as well, who you'd probably have to consider maybe, but I wonder if his size, they already got like, if you got Quinn Hughes, like people say for Team Canada, if you got Makar, you don't need Bouchard, the offensive guys. Well, if you have Quinn Hughes, do you need Lane Hudson? You got Hughes, you got Brock Faber. How many smaller defensemen can you have, right? Realistically. So that's why, to me, the 2 guys I'm watching for your defense core are Sanderson and Luke Hughes.
And you mentioned Luke. Luke is one that I had on here and I took off the last second because I still think we have to figure out a few things here, but he's on that short list. So we'll see what that looks like next month when we do it again.
So you're confident that you have a silver medal winning team?
Hey, we're kind of joking around about it because like some of the guys I added up front, the fact that it's on NHL ice, that I struggled. That's what I struggled with because I kind of made our team smaller. And I don't love that because of the ice. And what was so intriguing with 4 nations was the physicality. I mean, the Canada-US game was incredible. That was something. So I don't know. That was a part I kind of struggled with. But right now, just as far as talent-wise, I think that that's more of what I was leaning into.
I think it's super early, but some other American forwards who might put themselves in the conversation. Nick Schmaltz is having a great start in Utah with Clayton Keller. Right. Frankie Nazar, I know he's young in Chicago, but people love him in Chicago, man. So like USA's got some good young players. Shane Pinto got 7 goals already to start the season, and he can check, right? Like he can be your checking center if you want. So they got some other options here. I think both teams are going to have maybe more changes than we think, Rupper, when it's all said and done. And health will be a factor. Like, is Matthew Tkachuk, like how healthy is he? Because look, remember at 4 Nations last year, he played in that last game. He really wanted to play. He was ineffective. He didn't do very much, right? And then obviously he didn't play the rest of the season. And I know he's an emotional leader. Like he probably has to have his legs sawn off to not be on the team. But like Brock Nelson, of all your forwards, to me, he's the obvious guy who ain't going to be there. I don't think Brock
Right.
Nelson makes your team.
The thing, so this is part of it why I have him on here right now, and I agree with you, and that's why I have him down in that spot, is his ability to play center. And to have some guys, some more center. You got JT Miller, you got Brock Nelson, you got some flexibility there depending on what's going on. The one guy, a little honorable mention when we're rambling off some names, Alex Tuck is one that intrigues me a little bit too. But I don't see a world where you have Tage and Tuck both on it. I don't know. That's just to add some more size and a little more straight line. I don't know. Those ones kind of jump out to me too.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's switch over to a team. So you got 3 new guys. I got a few more. So my Team Canada roster, obviously the guys being named already: McDavid, MacKinnon, Crosby, Point, and Reinhart. Those are my 5 obvious forwards. Mitch Marner, I have in on the right wing. Now, to start these 2 guys I have today are probably the 2 guys that I'm like, not sure they'll be there at the end because of health and age and everything else. But I still have Stone and Marchand. Mark Stone was off to an unreal start till he got hurt. Right? Him and Jack Eichel were absolutely killing it. Now, I know they don't play together, but Stone's an emotional guy, big, strong body, can play in big games. So I give him respect. He's on here today. But what's his health like? That's a question. I have Mark Scheifele on the team. I thought he was close to making the team last year, or 4 Nations. So I have Mark Scheifele on my team. I just like his skill more than some of the guys, and I'll tell you who I took off. Then I got Sam Bennett with 2 new wingers who weren't there last year. Nick Suzuki, who I know is a center but could play wing, and Tom Wilson. Tom Wilson can score, and he's big, and he's physical, and he's showing he can control his temper. He doesn't take as many undisciplined penalties as he used to a few seasons ago, and I think that's why maybe. Plus, if you look at, the Capitals played Tampa Bay early. Tom Wilson had a really big game against John Cooper in Tampa Bay. So, so I have Scheifele, Suzuki, and Wilson as my new guys, and I have Cirelli and Jarvis. I don't have Konechny, and I don't have Hagel. Konechny only played 1 game. I don't think it's a real big reach to not have him on. But I like Wilson because he brings a different element, physicality. And I know that the Olympic rules are different. We're not going to have fights like we saw at 4 Nations, but you can still hit and you can still be aggressive, and he can score, right? Like, he can score. He's won a cup. He knows how to play in big games. So I have Scheifele, Suzuki, and Wilson as my 3 new forwards, with Hagel and Konechny out. And remember, people, there's a bigger roster now. There's 14 forwards, 8. Well, you can have 22 skaters. I'm assuming a team is going to go 14-8 and not go 15-7. So that's what I have. And Jarvis is off to a good start, but he didn't do much at 4 Nations. And Cirelli, I know, could be your 4th line center, but Sam Bennett, I like there more because of the elements to his game. And Sam Bennett's a big game player. He scored a huge goal at 4 Nations. He was obviously great in the Stanley Cup Finals for Florida.
So first off, I love your 3 ads. I think those are bang on. I mean, Nick Suzuki, I thought he showed very motivated hockey after 4 Nations. The way he got Montreal in the playoffs, the run he was on, I think this guy has gotten his game to another level, and he's got that versatility playing whatever. What do you need him to do? What position do you need him to play? What line do you need him to play on? Scheifele is a great one as well. Tom Wilson, love that one. I'm just looking at your lines here, and you got Suzuki, Bennett, Wilson. I'm just having fun here. Just slide Marchand down there. Can you imagine that line?
Yeah.
Can you imagine that line? Marchand, Bennett, and Wilson. I mean, it would just wreak havoc on everything and everybody they touch out there. But they got a lot of options for the coaching staff with this group. I do like your 2, I guess, quote unquote extras. I think if there's one thing, you mentioned this earlier with Team USA and trying to go forward and get this experience. I feel like what we see at international events, which we haven't seen in quite some time, but what we used to see is the idea of let's always keep infusing the youth. I just can't think that not one of Celebrini or Bedard will be there. I would probably lean Celebrini. It probably is an extra. It depends what the season looks like. And we just talked about his monster 5-point game at MSG last night will certainly help. I find that one of those guys will find their way on this roster, if not both, just to kind of keep the soil turning over here with Team Canada. But I like this group so far.
All right, so now we go to our defense, Rupert. So you might like my one addition to the blue line, the
Yes.
youngster who is. So I've got Makar and Taves still. Although Taves going to have to play better. I don't think Taves had a great start. Harley and Parayko, Shea Theodore, Josh Morrissey, Travis Sanheim, and I have Matthew Schaefer. Matthew Schaefer, how he's played, how he skates, how he's big. Like, oh my goodness, he's been phenomenal for me. Now I know that means Drew Doughty is off the team, and I'm sure Kings fans are going to scream and that's okay. But keep in mind, it's funny that Drew Doughty's off. Drew Doughty was on the 2010 Olympic team. He was a 20-year-old, and he played unreal. So I know that Schaefer's only 18, but Canada has shown we're not afraid. If the kid's that good, we'll play him. And remember, that was in Canada where there's even more pressure that Canada had flamed out in 2006 in the Olympics. There was tons of pressure coming home, and they put in 20-year-old Drew Doughty, and he was phenomenal in those Olympics. He was one of their best defensemen. You could argue maybe he was great. And they had big name guys, Pronger and Niedermeyer, but here's Drew Doughty, 20 years old, and he didn't look out of place. And the way I've seen from Schaefer early on this season, I'm like, you know what? I don't mind that pick. I do think there's some other guys I could look at as the season goes along for sure. We'll see where it goes. But I think Harley, how he played last year at Four Nations when he kind of came in as a reserve, they're really going to like that. Big, moves the puck very well. But I do think like Taves, he's playing with Makar, but I do need to see more from Devon Taves. I'll just say that. Like it can't always, he's got to do a little bit more for me. And I thought Sanheim was another guy, like he could be open potentially for having a spot change. Like this is one, like Matt Schaefer could easily come off. I just want to give him some props early on. This is the team today. Obviously it's going to change before there, but if he keeps playing like he has, I can make a strong argument why I'd have him on the team.
Yeah. You mentioned Devon Taves. I find it interesting with him. He's a hell of a defenseman. We've seen it. He's struggling to start the season right now. I wonder, I don't think he will be on this team if he's not playing with Cale Makar. So if his game, and you get to see that all the time in Colorado, obviously, they know each other and there's a comfortability there. But I guess my point is if he's not where he's slotted here, I don't know if you really have him on the roster, if you understand what I'm saying. So I think there's one there that he could be on their top pair, or I can see him not on the team. Like it's weird to say that, but they got some other options here. And again, to infuse some youth, I like Matthew Schaefer so far. Man, can you imagine that kid's world if he was on this team and what he's done? He just came off a point streak that I don't even know if he had that long of a point streak in the Ontario Hockey League. So what he's doing right now is fantastic. But this is a good decor. You're gonna get some heat for Schaefer right now. But I like that you went out on a limb there and you're gonna take one on the chin, Greg's, because give the kids some love. I'd love to see him on this platform. Logan Thompson, that's a good one. Logan Thompson, I thought should have been on it last year, Four Nations.
Yep.
So. You give
and I put him on there. Like Montembeault's had a tough start, and so like really tough start. He didn't play. Like Binnington's a lock because of how he played. It's a no-brainer to me. Like he's on your team. He's not going to drop from 1 to 4. There's no chance. So does he play every game again? We'll see. But I had him. Aiden Hill was the one. I know he's hurt again, so he's a question mark. But Canada's goaltending, I know they only had the 3 guys at their camp, but there was nothing on ice for it. You look at the Canadian goaltenders, and hey, people thought Canada had a big disadvantage. Well, Binnington showed them, you know what? He's there. So yeah. I'll be stunned if Binnington isn't the main guy to start unless he's injured or he really falls off the map here. I know he hasn't had a good start to this season at all. He's got like an 885, and the whole Blues team just looks off right now. But there'll be some guys on that Canada team where I think that the goaltending, Mike, is going to come down to kind of like the last minute. They've got a few other option guys. And the way he's played, if he played like he played in 2024, when under Chris Knobloch, Stuart Skinner was really good, right? And he's been in 2 Stanley Cup finals. If Skinner continues to play like he has right now, he'll be in the conversation, right? I know there'll be some concerns about, because when he has a bad game, but if he eliminates his bad games, and he hasn't had a bad game yet this year, he made the one brain fart on the Calgary goal. Everybody saw it. That's not a bad game. It's just one play.
Right.
And, I look at at him, he's the one guy as the season goes along I'll be watching, because he has played in 2 Stanley Cup finals, and he's shown you if he has an off night, he can bounce back, right? He's done it. Like, ask Dallas fans if Stuart Skinner's any good. They're like, what are you guys talking about? He's out dual Jake Ottinger 2 years in a row.
Incredible.
So
yeah,
he'll be in the conversation. I think the Canadian goaltending depth obviously is a concern, but you only need one goalie to play well. You don't need 3. You only need 1.
I feel like I like the Logan Thompson, but I wonder if you can go Logan Thompson and Aiden Hill because of there's some uncertainty of Logan Thompson hasn't been on that type of international play. Aiden Hill got the experience last year as far as just being there, and but I don't really know where his game's at or where his health is going to be. I think there's one guy. It's just an insurance policy that he could get a call in the last second and show up and just be solid. If they need him, he could be their 3rd string, he could be their 2nd string, and heck, if he plays in the games, he might be fine. And that's Cam Talbot. I think Talbot is one of those guys that they have back there if they need him. He's like in the bullpen, and when we get close, if it looks like it's Jordan Binnington's net. I mean, he's big game Jordan Binnington for a reason, but depending on what the other two shake out to be, I wouldn't be surprised if you could have maybe even a fresher Cam Talbot too with John Gibson there in Detroit, and maybe have Cam Talbot as one of your options.
Yeah, possibly at his age, maybe not, but yeah, we'll see. I think that's where the uncertainty. I think you're going to have lots of options. Like, you could have 2 different guys behind Binnington in a month's time here for Team Canada, and we'll see how it goes. There are some other 4s that you mentioned, so this will be fun. We'll keep these, and then we'll update them as we go every month as it gets closer. I think the Olympics is going to be a lot of excitement to have NHL players back in it for the first time in 12 years, which will be really nice. And this weekend, Rupper, let's hope the goals keep coming, baby, because it was a slow start offensively in the NHL. And last night we saw a few games with 6-5s and 5-4s and 7-5s, the Anaheim Ducks and Boston. Like, let's get a few goals going here. So that would be awesome. Have yourself a great weekend. Who you're picking in the World Series?
I want the Jays, man. I was captured by the Springer hit the other night, the home run. So I'm kind of just jumped on the bandwagon. I'm here for it. So let's go Jays. I want to see it.
All right. Obviously, I'd be rooting for the Jays. It's going to be hard, man. The Dodgers pitching is so good. But this is a classic case. The best pitching team who strikes out the most people versus the team that strikes out the least. And right now has been pounding the ball more than anybody else in the postseason. And then Trey Savage. He's like Schaefer, man. Like, think about, like, you look at this guy's come out and played single A ball, double A, triple A. Now he's in the World Series starting game 1. So, hey, if Trey Savage can start game 1 of the World Series, Matthew Schaefer can make the Olympic team.
He absolutely can. Yes.
Awesome. Thanks, Rupper. That's the rundown brought to you by Bet365. Have a great weekend.
Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Merrick, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.